Walking the edge of life. So, if you were here last week, you heard Greg talking about living on the inner edge. And so, this month of February, we're going to be talking about the edge. So, what is the edge that we're talking about where we can see such incredible things? And what it is that is in our spiritual journey, this edge that we're talking about is the space between safety and growth, comfort and expansion, expanding ourselves beyond beyond where we are right now. It's that time that we have, that moment that we have where we can show up for the truth that lives within each and every one of us, where we can take all of these incredibly wonderful ideas and concepts and 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 take that risk and turn them into action. That's the edge that Greg was just reading about. That's the edge that he talked about, that inner edge, that space where we know that what we're about to say or do may be out of alignment with what it is that we know is the truth, that's in alignment with our authentic self. And today what we're going to do is to take that now and let's take it outside. Let's bring it outside and let's turn our edge, build that bridge to allow us to go across and bring us into that state of growth, that state of expansion, that state where we more fully and freely express the divine, the authentic that we are. There's a contemporary of Ernest Holmes, his name is Howard Thurman, who talks about the fact that inner insights are not meant to be hidden, that they are meant to be achieved in the deed. And what I call that is live our truth beyond our comfort zone. And Ernest Holmes talks about it too, that thoughts and beliefs, what we know in this teaching is thoughts and beliefs shape our reality. But this teaching is not just one of ideas, it's also teaching us to go into right action, to take that action, to embody the values that we affirm and that live as if the vision of the world that we desire already is. And that is living our truth beyond our comfort zone, beyond that which is comfortable. And that's the edge. When we start to feel uncomfortable, we're on that edge. Whether it's something that we're thinking inside or it's a situation that we're experiencing outside of us and we're uncomfortable about how to proceed or what to do, that is the edge. And it's time for us in that at that moment to look past our fear of either being misunderstood or being rejected, or um, a fear that I always used to have is that my family's going to think that I've drank the Kool-Aid. When I first came into this teaching, I was in California, and it was not too long after a group of people drank the Kool-Aid. And my two sisters at the time were ready to get on a plane and fly to California and find out what the heck was going on with me because of all the weird stuff that I was saying and how I was changing and all this other stuff. So getting beyond that fear. Now they accept me. All my nieces and nephews introduce my younger sister as the nurse of the family and me as the minister of the family. So if you need physical healing, go to Aunt Janet. If you need soul healing, go to Aunt Jackie. So it's how they introduce us. So uh, that's what we're talking about. And what Ernest Holmes says, and I want you to listen to this because the first time I read this, I'm like, are you kidding me? So listen, think of the whole world as your friend, but you must also be the friend of the whole world. Refuse to see the negative side of anyone. Refuse to let yourself misunderstand or be misunderstood. Affirm this wherever you go, and you will find things just as you wish them to be. And that's from Science of Mind on page 298. And I'm like, refuse to see the negative side of anyone. Are you kidding me? In today's world, how can I do that? Well, how can I do that? I can start close to myself, close to home. Do I have to do that on the global scale? It would be nice if I could. And I try to, and it's a practice. This is a practice. This isn't something that, boom, I'm not seeing the negative side of anybody or anything. It's a process. But the question we can each ask ourselves is, can we hold our inner rhythm of life, that inner rhythm, the one that Greg was talking about last week? Can we hold that and step into situations the way we have before? Step into those situations that require courage. And that's walking on this edge of life. It's leaning into that space between safety and growth, leaning into it and knowing that that is the space, excuse me, that is the space where faith becomes our lived experience. I guess I'm trying to combine space and faith, because that's where we want to be. That is where we make a difference. That we live our truth, that we will encounter of moments of discomfort. And some of those moments are going to be speaking up when silence feels so much easier. It would just be so great if I just stayed quiet at this moment. Be quiet. Shh, shh, shh. I can hear that ego voice going shh, shh. Or if you're a fan of the dog whisperer going like he does to dogs that bark, just don't say anything. But it's standing firm for our values, and the values that even when people don't yet understand. And this experience that I had with my sisters, um, I was kind of labeled as weirdo Aunt Jackie. Um, when my oldest sister's husband passed away and she started hearing messages from him, who was the person that she turned to talk about it? It was me, because she knew I wouldn't judge her. Whether I thought it was crazy or not, she had enough experience with me at that point in time that she knew I was a safe person in our family to come and talk to about it. And that's what we're talking about. It's showing kindness where cynicism might be a lot easier. It might be more socially acceptable, or cynicism, sarcasm, whatever it may be. Before we got started, I was talking about my granddaughter asking me to put ballet music on so that she could just do some free-form ballet for me. At first, I thought she had some little routine, so I wanted to know what song she wanted, because she's taking a little ballet class at her preschool. And she goes, anyone, it doesn't matter. I just want it to be, she if it wasn't the right kind. She just wanted it kind of slow. She goes, I want it slow. And she started doing this graceful dance. And yet, were there mistakes? Yeah, things like she almost tripped, but she caught herself there. She tried doing some more complicated ballet moves. Could I have focused on that? That, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. And there is a part of me that wants her to be like, the prima ballerina at the most premier ballet place, right? Because that's just how grandmas are. Um, or at least this one is. But instead, I focused on all the stuff that she did right. It's human nature to try to, get people to improve, and it's focusing on what was done right. It's looking at putting my attention on what we want more of. And this is a practice. That's what this really means. Walking on the edge of life is a practice. And what is the practice? The practice is seeing good where it is not obvious and living from that vision of what it is we desire anyway. It means coming from love and compassion. It's that there's an edge between our private beliefs and our public action. And it's a having this comfort about the spiritual insights that we have when we are in a situation and not hesitating to bring them into a visual expression where not only can we see it, but the from our ego perspective, the risk is that others may see it and I might get judged. And again, it doesn't have to be on the grand scales. We can start small. We can just start that little bit at a time of smiling at a cashier who's having a bad day rather than reacting to their bad mood. Just understanding that we don't know what happened to them all day. We have no clue. We have no idea what happened to that person, or opening the door for somebody, or I've told the story before where my grandson saw a lady sitting on the side of on the street one summer day, and she had tears, and he wanted to ask her what was she okay, and it ended up it was her birthday, and she just wanted someone to sing happy birthday to her. So he and my granddaughter and I sang happy birthday to her and made her day. I was scared as heck. I had no idea who this woman was. You know, it's a scary time in our society right now, and yet I let go of that. I let go of that fear, and I walked through it, and we sang happy birthday, and smile on her face was worth everything that I felt I was risking. It was worth taking that risk just to see her smile and the effect that it had on my grandson. It just was, it's worth it. And that's that process. That's crossing that edge. It's letting what we know inwardly guide what we do outwardly. There was compassion for this woman that I felt, but then the ego came in and said, "Oh," it was kind of like the shh, shh, don't speak up. It was, oh, what if? And it's like, I'm out in public, you know, I've assessed the risk, of course. We should all do that. But it was taking that risk. It was stepping across that gap. It was leaning into safety and growth. And it was not just growth for me, it was growth for all of us. So what this Howard Thurman in his book, The Inward Journey, talks about this. And it's a very long quote, so I'm only taking a piece of it, and I would invite you to either look it up or we can post it. But what he says is he's talking about this, whether to do the good deed or allowing this our spiritual insights to guide our outward actions. And he says, then it follows that the good deed is a meeting place for the mingling of one life with another. What a person has experienced in insight, they achieve in the deed. What a difference giving makes now. It is no longer an offering merely of money or time or services, viewed as a sacrifice or a cause for merit, recognition, or glory. It is a simple sacrament involving all of a person as their spirit moves through that swinging door of need into the very citadel of another's spirit. It was taking that step for me, taking that step into this and going through that door that he talks about and walking into this person's life and singing happy birthday. And it made her day. It made her day. It made my day. It made my son and grandson and granddaughter's day. And it when I read that statement from Howard Thurman, it was like, that's what happened. That's what happened. We walked through that door. We walked into this other person. So there was truly oneness in that situation that we all felt. And as scary as it is, when you're standing on that one side of that edge, and you go over to the one edge, and one side of the edge, and when you cross over to that other one, the edge of growth, the edge of taking that risk, the edge of being in alignment with your spiritual insights, that it's an unexplainable joy that comes. I can't put it into words that do it justice, that do it well. It does. I mean, it's better to say something about it than nothing, but it's such an incredible feeling when you do take that step. And sometimes all it takes is just a moment, just one moment, to recognize whatever kind of fear is coming up inside. When you feel that discord between what it is you're in, you know from that core of your being, and being silent or being sarcastic or whatever it is, to just taking the moment to take a conscious breath. And for me, that conscious breath, I also just focus in on, I'll say something like, God's got my back, or I'm never separated from source, or uh, I am God in action. Just something to remind me that I am never separate from source. I'm only, if I block it, I feel separate. I'm still not. I just feel separate. So I encourage each and every one of us, when we are walking this edge, to rest in that as we lean into that place between safety and growth, that we also lean into or rest in knowing that God's got my back. And if I open myself up, if the right words, the right action will come to me. So walking this edge is not taking a reckless leap. It's taking courageous steps. That's the process, a step at a time. And I'm reminded of a story that is attributed to Thich Nhat Hanh. And that is a Buddhist monk. And I will ask you this question too. A Buddhist monk asked his students a question. So think about this. If you're carrying a cup of coffee and someone bumps into you, why did you spill the coffee? Why did you spill the coffee if someone bumps into you? And all of his students, each and every one of them, said, it's because someone bumped into me. And I'm sure that was the first thing I thought. I'm sure that was, for most people, unless you've heard this story before, that was probably what you thought. And the teacher is like, no. The reason you spilled the coffee is because that's what you were carrying in your cup. Because if you were carrying water, you would have spilled water. And then the profound thing is that whenever life shakes you up, whatever you're carrying is going to spill out. And so when I thought about this, it's like, okay, if I'm carrying a cup of coffee and someone bumps into me and I spill that coffee, I'm going to get a stain on whatever I'm wearing. Most likely, I'm going to get burned or at least uncomfortable because it's hot. And I am a coffee drinker, so I'm not saying, dissing coffee or anything. I have my cup or two in the morning. But if I'm carrying water in my cup and I get bumped into, I spill water. I don't get a stain. The water dries. I don't get burned. If anything, I could think about I get cleansed. So think about what it is I am carrying in my cup. because that's our inner work. That's what Greg was talking about last week, about being on that inner edge, being on that inner edge and taking those risks and understanding where we are and getting the work done inside of us to bring us more in alignment with our truth. And what we're talking about today is diluting that coffee into water so that when we do get bumped, when we get bumped by life, when we're on that edge of how do I respond to this? How do I respond to what's happening to me in my outer experience? I can more often than not, that tendency of the thought that Ernest Holmes talks about, I can more often than not respond with water, respond with cleansing, respond with a positive outlook, and see the good where it is not obvious, and live from the vision of what it is we desire. So ask yourself every day, what am I carrying in my cup today? What's going to spill out on everybody today if I get bumped? And so when we go back to what Ernest Holmes said, he says, be friends of the whole world. And he says to not do not see, refuse to see that negative side of people, of anyone, of situations. Easy to say, not easy to do, not expecting any one of us tomorrow to be completely positive, but I can go in and I can look. If nothing else, I can review my day every evening. How could I have handled that differently? What could I have done differently? What's my part in whatever situation I had? And having that courage the next time to take that courageous step. Not we're not I'm you know, we're not talking about a reckless leap. We're talking about courageous steps. And then Howard Thurman reminds us that when we give in action or in words and presence, it can become a sacrament from the spirit, from love, the love and compassion that we are. And we can not only have that altruistic good feeling within ourselves, but it ripples out, it spreads out. Who knows what that the woman that we sang happy birthday to, who knows what else, what joy she might have spread somewhere else. I know the joy that was spread from my with my grandkids. I mean, if they know it's somebody's birthday, they're the first ones to want to sing happy birthday now, to see that smile on people's faces. And just keep in mind that the edge is not where faith ends. It's where faith begins to be seen. This edge that we're talking about, this between safety and growth, between not taking the risk and coming from compassion and love, and taking that step, that courageous step. That is where faith begins to be seen. Not realizing that that's what I did, and preparing for this, it's like, well, that's what happened. I took that risk with my family, and came from love and compassion when, as many times as I could, because we all know how families can be. And it gave my older sister, when she thought she was going nuts because she was hearing her husband's voice, she was able to call me when she had no one else to turn to. Well, and she did. She turned to her children, and they were ready to put her in, crazy town. So that's the power of what we can do. And so in closing, I want to go in, I'm going to go into prayer for us. And so I invite you to just bring yourself to your center, like Greg so wonderfully brought us to center early, a little bit ago. Just come back to that space, that place. I invite you, if you choose to close your eyes or just cast your gaze down to cut off the visual stimulation of where you are. If you choose to, it's okay if you don't. Hmm. And as I come into that space myself, as I sit in that space, I just rest in that knowing that there is only one life, that there is only one power and presence, and it is that which creates, animates, and sustains everything in the universe. And this power can be called many things. I call it God. I also call it love, for that is what it is. It is love that is beyond my comprehension as a human, beyond the word unconditional love. It is joy and peace and beauty, and it is light itself. Mhm. And knowing absolutely that I am an expression of that love. And one of the things I like to say is that at some point, this power and presence created itself as Jackie in its own likeness, as I am a pinch of the doughboy, if you will. And so that what I know is that is true of everyone who hears my voice right now. That we are each unique, individualized expressions of love, of beauty, of joy, of peace, of light. We are each a beacon of light. We are we are love in physical form. And so what I claim right now for each of us as we go into our daily lives, I claim courage. I declare it. I declare it to be so that there is a courage that comes from within, allowing each and every one of us to come from that space of love, of compassion, of kindness, of joy, to wear those glasses where the lenses allow us to see the good, and that it is a courageous step that each of us take. We each find something one day at a time to take that courageous step, and it doesn't matter how big or small steps are perfect, because there's nothing when we come from love. There's nothing outside of love. There's nothing. Love is all there is, and anything else we make up. And so I claim that love right now. I claim that love for each and every one of us. And I just in joy and gratitude express this word. And as I let this go into that loving arm of the law, the loving arms of the law that is driven by love, that is moved by love, yet says yes, only says yes. I just let this go in love, and I let it be, and so it is. Thank you.